We're recording. So, all right, we're going to go ahead and get started. If you want more, please go get it. We had several that RSVP'd that did not come. So we have leftovers. So please grab another plate. There's cookies, drinks, whatever you need. If you want to take notes, there's paper and pens in the middle. We're going to let our trainer introduce herself and tell us all about this program. And, you know, as Dana and I were sitting here talking about her case, it's a very timely thing right now after graduations have happened for us to learn about our kids and their higher education. So please go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm with BCFS Health and Human Services, specifically the ETV program, which stands for Education Training Voucher. We are based in San Antonio, but we cover the whole state. So our team consists of 2 specialists, which is myself and my coworker, Drew Melton. We go around the state of Texas. I'm talking about the program, also working with youth that are eligible to apply for the program as well. And then we have 4 ETV coordinators. No, actually 3, excuse me. We have 3 ETV coordinators that work directly with the youth who apply for the ETV program. And then of course we have our program director. So a little bit about myself, just so you get to know me. I have 10 years of experience working in basically in the field, working with youth. I started off as a CPS caseworker. I did that for 2 years. And then I transitioned into the substance abuse field, working with youth. Part of the population were youth from foster care, so I did that for about 5 years. And then I did 2 years in California working as a child and family team specialist. So I mediated meetings between the department and the families involved. And then I've been in this position for, this June will be 3 years. So.
What is your name?
Crystal, Krystal. So that's a little bit about myself. I'm here to talk about basically all the resources and benefits that youth have when it comes to continuing their education after high school. So the first benefit that they have is called the Texas Tuition and Fee Waiver. This is a state law. It can only be used in public schools in the state of Texas, and all it does is waive those tuition and fees for them. And I'll also share a copy of this presentation. I'll send it to Kristen. She can pass it on to y'all, so y'all have it. So just to note, for the Texas Tuition and Fee Waiver, for youth that are aging out of the foster care system, they have to activate it before turning 25 years old. Once they activate it, they have it for a lifetime, so they can go to school for as long as they want to. And then there's no age limit to enroll as long as they're before 25. There's no limit on credit hours. All they need to do is enroll in 1 college course just to unlock this benefit. If they stop continuing after that, because they unlocked it, they can go back at any age in the future, as long as they've unlocked it before 25. It also doesn't depend on GPA, so they don't need to even pass that first class. They can still continue using this benefit. It also works for online classes while living out of state. So if they live out of state for whatever reason, but they were in foster care in the state of Texas, they can take online classes out of school in Texas. So like we have one youth, she lives in Florida, but she's taking online classes for UT Austin. So she's able to use the tuition waiver for herself. Feel free to ask any questions throughout the PowerPoint. So.
You said for kids that age out, but it's also for kids who have been in the program, went home, and years later.
So that's the department's the one who determines that eligibility. So I know there's certain cases that are a little bit complex or in the there's a lot of gray areas, honestly. But the FPS or the department is usually what happens in those cases. They have to go to the state, and the state office will determine whether the youth is eligible if it's a very complex case.
Well, if they've been adopted and they were approved for adoption subsidy benefits, then they get that.
But if they were returned home, then it's not guaranteed. They were returned.
Yeah, they would just have to look at their case. We're an outside party. We have no access to anything from the department, so we wouldn't be able to tell them. So we always have to refer them.
Do you have any idea what they look at to make that determination?
I'm not too sure what they look at. They're the ones who determine that. So, for things in general, this is taken off their website. So if they meet pretty much one of these bullet points, they should be eligible for the tuition and fee waiver. They are working, I know they are working on adding more to get more youth to be able to qualify for this waiver. Nothing is set in stone though. They're just kind of proposals right now. So that's what they're working on. But once that's been confirmed to us by them, then we'll start adding, more in our information. So this is, I'm not gonna go through each one, but basically this is what they have for now.
If they're 16, that may be, that's one of the rules. If they were over 16 and were in foster care and went back home. But if they were under 16, I think that's a big issue.
And then, when it comes to, youth that are adopted out of the care, it usually comes with, like she mentioned earlier, the adoption assistance agreement, and they can use it at any age. So they don't have that rule where they have to do it before 25. I'm not too sure why that is, but that's just how they said it. I know, I understand.
It'd be like opposite, cause like they were adopted, so they have people.
I understand completely. Yeah, I know. I get the same reaction everywhere I go. So yeah, so they're able to use it pretty much any age. And then the second benefit that they can use at the same time as the tuition waiver is the education training voucher, or ETV. That's a program that we oversee. So this one, it is a federal need-based benefit, so the youth does have to show a need, which in 99% of cases, they do have a need. So with ETV, youth can receive up to 5,000 per school year, and it's divided into the number of semesters they plan to go to school. The first priority to have taken care of is housing and utilities. Housing, they can live in the dorms, in an apartment, or even if they're living with relatives, that's fine. If they're going to a certain school that does not accept the tuition waiver, we can help pay for those tuition and fees. So example, like a private school or one of those trade schools, that doesn't accept the tuition waiver. For everything, whatever funds are left over, they can put it towards vocational training, personal living expenses, childcare needed, books and school supplies. They can purchase one computer through ETV. We always encourage them to buy a really good computer, because we can only help them with one. So make sure they buy one, a good one. And then for transportation, they're not allowed to buy a car, with ETV, but if they already own one on their own, they can use the funds for gas, insurance, maintenance, registration, things like that. Or if they would like to buy a bicycle, a bus pass, or use it for like Uber rides, things like that.
How do you find out if you have a child interested in going to a trade school? Do you just call them and ask if they accept them? How do you find out?
So so the tuition waiver is separate, so most trade schools don't accept the tuition waiver. But with ETV, as long as the school's accredited for and have been in business for 2 years, they'll count and they can use ETV towards that.
Okay. What were you referring to when you said as long as the school accepts it?
I don't think,
She said most trade schools do not accept the tuition waiver.
but the youth can
They
use
use the
ETV
ETV.
for the trade
Okay.
school, yeah.
As
to
long
pay
as
for
it's
those
accredited.
fees, yeah.
TC does. Yes,
Yes,
TC does
TC
accept it.
Mhm.
The tuition?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'll go over that in a little bit later in the presentation. But yeah, ETV can pretty much be used almost anywhere.
$5,000 per school year
Yes.
for 2 semesters or summer semester, the whole year.
Yes, so if they're going for 2 semesters, then they can get up to 2,500 per semester. If it's 3 semesters, so fall, spring and summer, then it's divided into 3, which I think it's like 1,667, something like that. But the most common is 2 semesters. So for ETV, our eligibility is really narrow, compared to tuition waiver. So for ETV, they have to be at least 16 years old, still in foster care. So these are youth that are taking college courses while in high school. So usually it's like dual credit courses, things like that. For everybody else outside of high school, they have to be under 23 and they either have aged out in extended foster care or they were adopted after turning 16 years old. So they fall under one of these, they will qualify for ETV. Other youth that are included are youth under the custody of the Juvenile Justice Department. So basically youth that were in foster care and went straight to the juvie system and they were still receiving like foster care payments basically until 18. And then also tribal youth in foster care. And then for ETV can be used for a total of 15 semesters or it ends on the month of their 23rd birthday. Usually their 23rd birthday comes before they even use they're in their 15th semester. So with ETV, if they are in high school, they only need to be taking 1 3-hour class, a dual credit class. For everybody else outside of high school, they must be taking at least 6 semester hours if it's towards an associate, bachelor's, or graduate degree programs. For those schools that are more like technical training, trade skills, things like that, or licensed career schools, the program has to be a minimum of 1 year, which in most of them are. We do have youth that are, the popular one right now is cosmetology or like esthetician type of jobs with the girls. And then guys are usually going for like barber schools and things like that. So as long as they're a year minimum, they can qualify for ETV. But there's plenty of other programs as well. Here's a difference between the two. A lot of times we get calls thinking that we're the same, but they're 2 separate benefits, and they can be used at the same time. So of course, the tuition waiver, it's a state law that can only be used at state-supported colleges, universities. All it does is waive tuition and fees. They have it for a lifetime as long as they access it before 25. And also there's no grade requirement for that. So if they don't pass that first class, they still get to keep it. For ETV, it is need-based federal funds. So our coordinators, once they receive all the information from the youth that's needed, they'll do a calculation, and they'll let the youth know how much of the full 5,000 they'll receive for the year. And then it's divided into the semesters. ETV can be used at any post-secondary institution, private or public, as long as they've been accredited for and in business for 2 years. They can receive up to $5,000 per school year from 16 years old all the way to the month of their 23rd birthday. They do have to be making SAP for ETV, which stands for Satisfactory Academic Progress. All that means is that they're in good academic standing with the school. But if they're not, we don't take away ETV right away. We give them until their 8th semester to start meeting SAP, which is plenty of time. I think that's 4 years maybe. So how does one get ETV? So the first step is they have to have applied for financial aid, which thankfully it's a requirement before they leave high school. So every year, the earliest you can apply is October 1st. So we encourage our youth to apply as early as possible, because there are some grants that are limited in their first come, first served basis. So the earlier they apply, the better. If they do need assistance, they can go to their transition center or they can go to any college financial department and let them know that, you know, they came from foster care and need assistance and things like that. So I mentioned earlier that ETV is a need-based benefit. So we encourage you to not accept any loans. We tell them ETV money is free money. You never have to pay us back. So the amount of loans they accept can affect how much ETV they can get. They're able to accept any scholarship, anything that's free money to them, grants, scholarships, but loans, if they accept a large amount of loan, it shows us that they don't have a need for the money. So we encourage them to, decline all loans. That way ETV money can fill in the gap, for them. And also nobody likes loans. The next step is to apply for ETV. So our applications are all online, texasetv.com. That's where it's a pretty fast application, takes maybe like 5 to 10 minutes if they have all their information needed. There is a section on the application, it's a space for trusted adults. It'll say case manager name and case manager email. It does not have to be a case manager. It can be any adult that they would like to go through the ETV process with them. So we do have plenty of youth that do put their CASA worker, so their CASA worker is included in the process with them when it comes to ETV. And then at the end of application, they just have to make sure that they put a list of adults that are allowed permission to contact us regarding their information. Once they apply with us, all their information is confidential. So, like no one can just call us and be like, I want to know about, this person's application. If they're not listed as giving us permission, we cannot confirm or deny any information. So, just if there's more than one adult that's, the youth would like to be involved, just make sure they list them there. So for applications, we do have deadlines for ETV. So it's important for them to submit their application as soon as they can. So for the fall, it's October 1st, spring, March 1st, summer, July 1st. They only need to apply once per year, and they'll let us know how many semesters they plan to go to for the year. We do have extended deadlines until the end of the month. So fall would be October 31st, spring, March 31st, and summer, July 31st. So right now we're accepting summer applications and the deadline's July 31st. Now, for the following school years, the applications open May 1st. So if the youth already knows that, for example, like right now, our high school seniors, they're starting school in the fall. So we already encourage them to apply for ETV because applications open May 1st. So that's the same every year. After they submit their application, they are assigned what's called an ETV coordinator. The coordinator will ask of them a list of documents needed to make that calculation, and then let them know how much they'll receive for ETV. So there are deadlines for all those documents to come in. Even though the semester is over, as long as they have their documents turned in before the deadline date, they will still get funded for the semester. Trust me when I say this, we do get kids December 31st sending everything just so they get their money for the full semester. So as long as they get it all in, they can still get funded. So for fall, December 31st, spring, May 31st, and summer is August 31st. If the youth is turning 23 years old, we ask for the documents to be submitted 6 weeks prior to them turning 23. Because we do need to fund them before they turn 23. I mentioned earlier, for ETV, they only need to submit one application, let us know how many semesters they plan to turn in. So when it comes to those documents, we understand they don't carry a printer or don't have fax machines. So we accept legible documents that are pictures or screenshots as long as we're able to read them. And then whenever a youth submits anything to us, we ask 7 business days for it to be processed. All right, so the next step after they get their application turned in and all that is turning in their list of documents. This is just a general list. It is a case-by-case basis. The coordinator will let us know specifically what is needed from them. So of course we receive their application. The ones you see in red, those only need to be turned in to us once if it's their first time applying for ETV. So the first form is DFPS verification of eligibility. This is requested from the department. It's basically just a form telling us that this youth is eligible for the ETV program as well as the tuition waiver. And then also we ask for a copy of their tuition and fee waiver letter. When it comes to that letter, if you have a youth that's attending college, a lot of schools have let us know that they prefer for that letter to be turned into them before they register for any classes. So because they have to do something in their system, so if they register for classes, it's gonna automatically charge them for that. So the schools, I mean, of course, they'll work on it to if the youth turns it in after, but they just let us know it's easier when the youth turns in that letter to them and then they can register for classes. That way nothing hits their account, their student account of like having to pay for those classes. So because it is a longer process when they register and then they're getting charged for it and then they submit this letter and it's a long process. So if the youth doesn't want to bother with that long process, they can just turn in the letter and then register for classes, just to make it easier. We do ask for a copy of their financial aid award letter, showing that they declined those loans, and then a copy of their class schedule. The ones that they get a little confused, of course, we're there to help them because it comes from our program, is the budget worksheet. This one's just showing us what the youth is planning to use the funds for. Another form is the request of funds. This form is just telling us where the money needs to go to and what for. And then of course, direct deposit form. Now, we do not issue checks to youth, so they do need to have a bank account under their name. And they'll submit this information through the direct deposit form. And all these, these three can be taken from our website, or they can request it from their ETV coordinator for a blank copy.
Does
When,
it have to be a brick and mortar bank, or can it be one of the new online banks?
as long as they can provide a routing number and an account number, then we're able to accept it. Some kids still use Cash App, which we don't recommend. We do accept it, but we do not recommend because we have had cases where the money disappears somehow. Does Cash App have a support or customer service? No, they don't. So, so we don't recommend Cash App. We recommend, going to an actual bank, or I know Chime has worked pretty well for our kiddos as well. So like an online bank like Chime. And I think SoFi is another one that's like kind of online as well. So, yeah, as long as they can. Yeah, I mean, we still take Cash App, but we don't recommend it because if something goes wrong, there's no way.
Yeah, I know that, Baybar or whatever is getting popular for the younger kids, the online bank,
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, it's
along with Chime.
yeah, it's just like some of them don't have the security measures that banks have. If something goes wrong in a bank, a regular bank, usually that can be taken care of and they refund and they give the kid the money while they investigate what happened and things like that. But like when it comes to like things like Cash App or other places, like there's no way for us to contact an actual person or customer service to help. So it can get very difficult. So when they're transitioning into a new semester, again, they don't need to reapply. They just contact the coordinator like, hey, what do I need to turn in for my new semester? So this is usually what we ask for is a new class schedule, an unofficial transcript showing that they're passing. And of course, if they're not, we give them until their 8th semester. An updated financial aid award letter for this new semester showing that they declined those loans, and then a new request of funds telling us where the money needs to go to. So on the budget worksheet, just real quick, it's not set in stone. It's just a plan of what they plan to use the money for. They should not include anything outside of ETV like scholarships, work study, or like even part-time job funds. So the youth was budget for the semester they plan to go to school for. The only thing is, I will say any youth that is in a supervised independent living, they won't get as much ETV money as other youth because they have those major priorities taken care of. So if they're still in foster care, they cannot budget for housing, utilities, food, clothing, or hygiene. But we still encourage them to apply for ETV to see how much they can get. So this is what our budget worksheet looks like. It's divided into the semesters, and they just fill in the categories they plan to use the money for. They don't need to overthink this, just kind of, round it out and put in there how much they plan to use the funds for. Now, the next form is called request of funds. So when the youth is under 21, we pay for housing and utilities for them directly. We call them vendors. It's usually just utility companies or like if they're on a lease, the leasing office, or apartment complex, whatever it is. So once they're 21 and over, they receive all the ETV funds and they're responsible for their own bills. So if they're under 21, we pay the housing utilities or the school, if they're using it for tuition, and then the rest will go directly to the student. So for housing, we do need a copy of their first and last page of the lease. If they're not, or like if they're living on the dorms, a copy of the dorm agreement with the school. If they're not on any lease or anything like that, we do ask for a renting together contract. So this is if they're living with a friend, a relative, or anyone that they're not on a lease with. And then for utilities, a copy of the bill, and then the rest will go straight to the student. So this is what our form looks like. This is an example for rent. So they'll just fill in the information. Again, this is if they're under 21. So they just fill in like the leasing office or apartment complex that they pay the rent to. In this example, the youth put $1,000 for rent, and then they send this to us, and then we send that money to them directly, paying the rent for the youth. This is what a renting together contract looks like. It is a legal binding contract between the youth and the other party that they're living with. Or sometimes they do have landlords, but they're not kind of lease agreement. So it'll be filled out between them and the person. It could be the head of household. We do have youth that, live with their grandma or things like that. So it's just a contract between both of them that they have somewhere to live while going to school. And if they're not paying anything, they can just put $0 on there. So it's signed by both of them. So for ETV, we are not considered emergency funds. So if the youth is in need of the money, they need to turn in, basically apply and turn in everything as soon as they can. We do not have anything like an expediting process, a rush process at all. We go in the order of everything being basically submitted and approved. So they just go at the end of the list. So it just goes like that. So we do not bump up any kid up or things like that. We don't have that process because we're not considered emergency. Receipts are not required. So we don't require for youth to send us receipts of what they use the money for. And then the maximum 5,000 is not guaranteed. So again, it's a calculation that the ETV coordinator will do based on their need. If they only let us know that they're going for one semester, the most that they can get is $1,666.67 for that semester. So a lot of the times what I tell the youth is that just tell us that you're going for 2 semesters so they can take advantage of the 2,500. Because sometimes they may change their minds at the end, like, you know what, I'm going to continue school. And if that happens, well, they kind of lost out on some money for the first semester. So I always encourage them to just go ahead and say they're going for 2. When it comes to their ETV coordinator, we only have 3 throughout the state of Texas. So they won't answer their phone. They're super busy getting everything together for all the kiddos in the state of Texas. So if the youth is in need to speak with them directly, the best way to contact them is through email. But if they really want to talk over the phone, please have them leave a message and then leave their name, their contact number, and what their question or concern is about their ETV. And the coordinator will return their call within 2 business days. When it comes to setting them up for success for ETV, we ask for them to use a personal email account. Our main form of contact is email, so please have them use one that they will always have access to. And then again, they will need a checking account under their name. They can go with any bank, of course. We always encourage them to use a bank that's like reliable, that we can actually contact if something goes wrong, so. Just want to go over a little bit about this House bill that passed, 1379. It passed in 2023. So it's basically DFPS wanted to create like some kind of like financial program, for youth that are transitioning into adulthood. We were having, issues with some youth where, you know, they have a parent that has access to their bank account and they call us like, oh, my parent took all my money, but we can't pay them again. So if the youth is not wanting to open, say, like a bank account like on their own, DFPS created this financial pilot program. So it's in collaboration with Capital Credit Union. So they can open it from 14 to 21 years old. They're the only owner of that account. They don't need a cosigner. They don't have any monthly fees, things like that. So there's more information on the website, and there's also a QR code. Usually the POW worker is the one that will get them started on this. And then also there's some like online training through the app that they can do, and they get money at the end because there's like certain tiers, and so they can get like $25 if they complete like a certain financial training. Usually they're like helpful things like how to budget and things like that. So that's another great resource for them to help them get started with a bank account. Throughout Texas, so there are foster care liaisons that are a great connection or a great contact for our youth. They can have additional resources for them. So there are some in the ISD level, which is the high school districts. A lot of them don't have one like in a specific high school per se, but there usually is one for the whole district. And then for college, so in the state of Texas, every college has a foster care liaison. So if you click on this link, it'll take you to the list. It'll show every school and who the contact person is for the foster care liaison. So if you have a youth that already knows what school they want to go to, please feel free to give them that information or get in contact with the foster care liaison to see what additional resources they have for the youth. The bigger the college, the more stuff they will have. That's what I've seen. So some of the bigger colleges do have like additional scholarships for youth because, you know, they have foster care experience. And so they're able to get extra funds to help them and stuff like that. So they're a great contact as well. And then also there's some colleges do have alumni groups. So this is like a student organization, basically with a group of students that have that foster care experience and are going through the similar process as them when it comes to transitioning into college. So they are a great support. A lot of them do have like extra things for them, like what's it called? Grocery carts or like gas carts. Also, some do have where they can provide anything you need for your dorm or apartment, like furniture or things like that. They also have that as well. The one that is very popular right now is the one in Prairie View, A&M University. The guy in charge of that, he used to be a foster youth himself, so he like really went all out with that program over there. So it's really cool to see, and actually a lot throughout Texas, a lot of them are trying to send them over there because they do have a really, really great support group for them. So I'm not advertising them, but that's what we have learned. So for youth living on campus, they can get assistance for temporary housing. Not all schools will send all this youth home, but some of them do. So during those Christmas and Thanksgiving breaks where they send all the students home, if the youth is in need of housing, they just need to get in contact with their school, whether it's through student affairs offices, admission, housing residents, depending on the school, whatever office is in charge. When COVID happened, they sent all the youth home. Some of our kiddos were able to stay on campus, even though it was during COVID, but they had nowhere else to go. So they were able to get some housing while that happened. So again, they just need to get in contact with the school. Another resource is supervised independent living. So a lot of schools are adopting this. Not all schools have them, but a lot of them are actually having these programs. So the youth is part of an SIL program. They can live on campus and have their meal plans paid for and things like that. So that's an additional resource for them. Every SIL program is different. I know the youth has to apply for it and then get interviewed. It's like a whole process to get accepted into the SIL program. Like I mentioned earlier about trade schools, so there are 2 technical schools that do accept the tuition waiver. The first one is Texas State Technical College. This one's cool because they have several schools throughout Texas. I've only been to a few of them. The one in Waco is really big. I didn't know how big it was. But it was cool to see that they have so many options, like trade skill options for our youth. So the youth can use their tuition waiver, and they can also use their ETV as well. The second one is Lamar Institute of Technology. This one only has one location in Beaumont. And they have different programs as well for trade skills. So they can use their tuition waiver as well as their ETV. So these 2 are great options for them if they don't want to do the traditional 2-year, 4-year universities. For youth that are wanting to go out of state, there are Ivy League schools that have a lot of programs where you get free tuition because your household income is at a certain level. The only challenge is getting accepted. So, but I mean, it's not impossible. So if the youth is wanting to go to an Ivy League, they do have programs. They may not use their tuition waiver, but their programs will allow them to not have to pay tuition. And I think Stanford does free room and board as well. That's the only one I know that does that. And then when it comes to ETV, so they can take their ETV money out of state. They do not have to stay in Texas. So they decide to go out of state. Obviously they can't use their tuition waiver, but they can still apply for Texas ETV and use those funds for tuition or if they need it for other things. So that's, yeah. These are the regions, how it's divided. So when you see information what says like region this, we go based off DFPS. So this area is considered region 7 under DFPS. So our youth do have aftercare benefits. This is after they've transitioned or they are in the process of transitioning. They do have an allowance of up to 1,000. Usually this is divided into 2 payments of 500. As long as they've completed PAL classes. So usually when they're around 14 or 15 is when they should be assigned a PAL worker or they stands for preparation for adult living. So it's just basically helping them get access and resources to help them transition into adulthood and then also continue their education. So usually they do get a lot of these benefits. They can get case management until 21 years old. They can get aftercare room and board assistance up to $3,000. That's usually divided into payments. They can get reimbursed for things like cap and gown, class rings, things like that. They'll always have medical insurance until the age of 26 years old. They'll always have services from the Texas Workforce Commission until the age of 25. And they also have access to an education specialist from their area until the age of 25. So these are a list of additional benefits that they have. So these benefits usually can be found at what's called transition centers. These are one-stop shops for our youth. They can go there and ask for all these services that are available for them. There's case management there. If they need housing assistance, they can ask there. Transportation assistance as well. For transportation, sometimes they'll have their own vehicle where they can transport the youth wherever they need to go. Or some of them offer more like Uber rides, so they'll send like a link for them to be able to get Uber rides and things like that.
Where is ours located?
It's coming in the next 2 slides.
Oh, okay.
Yes, yes, I got it. I got it. And then they'll also have, education support as well as job assistance. So at these transition centers, usually there's someone from the Texas Workforce Commission. So like in San Antonio, we have one and they help them with like applying for jobs, interviews, how to do interviews. As well as like us, we have like a little, like some clothes for them to use to go to an interview if needed. Not every transition center is the same, but most of them do have like pretty much most of them. There's also free mental health counseling if they need it. There's always a computer lab there or laptops that they can use. So it's basically a safe space for them. We have kids at ours, they come and they just play games on the computer, but of course it's just a safe space for them to be at. And then also there's always a kitchen or food pantry. They can get a bite to eat and things like that. And then some of them offer parenting classes or substance abuse counseling. Now, a lot of these services it has to be, it's voluntarily. So the youth, we can't force it on the youth. We do have some youth that are homeless, but that we still welcome them into our center, to grab a bite to eat if they want to be on the computer, things like that. But these services are voluntarily if they want to accept them. For Region 7, there are 2 agencies in charge of the transition center. So the first one is LifeWorks. This one's in Austin, Texas. So that's the information for them. So if the youth is near Austin or wants to go to Austin, which we have a lot of youth that are wanting to go to Austin, you can refer them to this place to help them get started with like those services. And then the other one, this one's a Central Texas Youth Services. So these are 3 centers that they have. So I think the closest one here is what? Belton?
Waco.
Oh, Waco? Okay. Oh, yeah. So these are the 3, so you can refer them to whichever is closest to them. So for the ETV program, that is our hotline. So if for some reason, they can't contact us directly, per se, like me or Drew, they can just call the hotline and leave a voicemail and we'll get back to them. Our office hours are Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 5:30. So if the youth calls us at like 3 in the morning, we're not gonna answer. So, but they can leave a message and we'll get back to them. If they're going to a college in this area, which is Region 7, the coordinator would be Geljet. So if you have a youth going to school around here, just let them know to look out for an email from Geljet. Please if they haven't received anything within like 7 days, sometimes it goes to their spam or junk folder, so have them check that. If they really haven't received anything, please feel free to contact us to see what's going on. This is my information and Drew's. Feel free to refer you to us, give them our information to contact us, things like that. We're always happy to help. We do presentations. We also do resource fairs. We also work with youth. So if you have a group of youth that you want us to come in to either submit an application live or do a presentation, please feel free to reach out to us. We do cover the whole state, so you can send us anywhere. So the PAL coordinator for this area is Jennifer Lewis. So the forms that I mentioned about verification of eligibility and tuition waiver, the youth will need to, or like any benefits they need to get from basically for transitioning, they would reach out to her. So we always refer them to Jennifer to obtain those forms, as well as any, like what they need to do to get those additional funds, like transitional living funds and stuff like that. We do have a Remind app. So this is an app that we use to send reminders about the deadlines coming up. So, if the students is in need of like, of a reminder, they can join this class, and we'll send those reminders to them. We do have one for you guys as well for CASA, so feel free to join, and you'll get those, reminders as well. We don't spam, it's just for us to help, remind people like, hey, deadline's coming up, so they don't miss it. And then also you can message through here as well. So if the youth is receiving the notifications, they can message us directly through Remind as well. We do have a Facebook page. Feel free to, add us on Facebook. We pretty much post the same things we send through Remind, and also other, events that are going on. And then I do have 2 pages of scholarship. We're not affiliated with them, but they're just additional research if the youth is like, wanting to do as many scholarships as possible. They can do additional research through these, links. And then, there are 2 scholarships under DFPS. We were told that they're not being utilized, a lot, and I don't know if they forget that it's available or what, but the first one is a Freshman Success Fund for foster youth. They just have to be a freshman to apply for this, and they can get 4 one-time grants of $1,000. And they can use it for anything they need, like books and school supplies, computers, software, tools, things like that. The next one is Ed Davis Powell Scholarship. So this one, it's for upperclassmen, and they have to major in government, political science, history, or other pre-law field. And it's the same where they can get 1,000 per academic year. The link is at the bottom to get more information about that. This is through DFPS, so. We do have additional resources, so findhelp.org is one that we like to refer them to a lot. You just go on the website and use, put in the zip code, and it'll show all the resources in that area, like food pantries, housing assistance, health insurance, things like that. Another one is Operation Achieve Independence. We were told they do cover the whole state, so it doesn't matter where, the youth is at. And they help with like, things like life skills training, education preparation, career preparation, things like that. They just have to be in foster care and 14 and older. Another one is Foster Love Rapid Response. This one is considered an emergency, funding. So if there's something that is, holding the youth back from continuing education, they can help, come in and fill that gap. So, if they need a computer, or they need to take care of some expenses, or they need grocery support, they're another program that can help. The only thing is that the youth cannot self-refer themselves. They would have to be referred by like y'all would be able to refer them because you're professionals or professional staff. So that's the only thing about that one. These are the links that you can get more information from. So for example, the transition center, if the youth is moving to an area, you can, check what transition center is closest to them and refer them there. So these are just information, where we get our information from. Are there any questions? Yes.
I have one, like these safe places. If your child's from Region 7, but like they're going to college somewhere else, can they go to any of the?
Yes, yes, yeah, they can go to, we always tell them to go to the nearest one to them. So, yeah, they don't have to go here, they can go there, as long as, they just have to say they come from foster care and they'll take them in. As far as I know, I don't think that's changed, but.
Do you feel like that there's concentrated efforts made to provide our workers with all this information, because they sure don't seem to be sharing this with our kids?
Yeah, there's a big, well, first of all, there's a lot of retention already, so, we come across new PAL workers as well. So, yeah, there's certain ones, certain areas definitely have it a lot more organized than other areas. but that's on the department though, they don't work for us, so. But we do our best to come out, so like through you guys, you know, cause we can't rely on the department to get this information to them, so we go to colleges, we go to high schools, we go to a lot of CASA offices as well. Pretty much anyone that works with the youth, coming from foster care, we relay this information, because again, you know, some PAL workers either don't know, or they just don't make the effort to give them that information, so, yeah, we do our best, so. Any other questions?
So you're just the one PAL worker for the region?
No,
Is
no, no,
Jennifer?
so she's like oversees the whole region, so she's like the top,
In
top,
charge,
top,
she's the boss.
yeah.
How do we get one?
The department's supposed to assign a PAL worker to every,
You can
Yeah.
contact Jennifer and find
when
out
they
who
get
her
to be
PAL worker
14, I think
is.
it's 14.
14,
Yeah, once they're 14 is when they should get assigned a PAL worker.
But if we polled all of our kids who are 14 and older,
They
you
would not know
may
who
see
their
a whole
PAL
lot
worker
who've never
is.
even heard of their PAL worker. So it's not happening like it needs to be happening, so.
No, mine doesn't have one.
Yeah, that's something CASA really needs to advocate for with the department, because that's a mandatory thing, they're supposed to be doing that, and they're not.
they should have a PAL worker, and then once they turn 15, they can go to the PAL classes.